working on my shop today on something a little bit different, but something that probably everyone has experience with, and that is the car hauler trailer. Almost all of them seem to have the same issues, tie down points. They're either wimpy, in the wrong place, or completely non-existent. And even this trailer right here, which is a pretty nice new trailer, doesn't have great tie down points. And that's the first thing that I want to fix. My current method for tying vehicles down to this trailer is to use this short chain with a hook on it. I attach it to the stake pocket. Then I've got this chain attached to a ratchet strap, attached to an axle strap to tie down the vehicle. That means I have to haul around 12 pieces of equipment to strap down all 4 corners of a vehicle. My first upgrade to this trailer is going to make that whole process more simple, fast, and strong. My solution to all of this is D-rings. My D-rings are 5/8 of an inch. They have a minimum braking strength of 18,000 pounds, a working load of 6,000 pounds. On a smaller trailer, you could go down to a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 inch ring, but they're pretty inexpensive, so go big. The next thing I've got to figure out is where to attach these onto the trailer. I want them attached in a really strong way, directly to the frame if I can. So let's see what our options are. The frame of this trailer is a big C channel that runs all the way down the length of the trailer. It's hidden under this plate, and on the back, it's hidden under this diamond plate. This diamond plate on the back is only 1/8 of an inch thick, so I don't want to weld to that. But this C channel runs all the way to the very back of the trailer. So I should be able to cut through the diamond plate somewhere back here and weld directly to the frame. On the front end, the C channel is exposed a little bit. I should just be able to notch through this diamond plate right here and again, weld directly to the frame. I'm gonna mark where these need to go and start making my cuts. I used the little vibrating cutter tool to notch out the wood so I'll be able to get my welder up on the bottom side. I also used the mini belt sander tool to go around and clean off all the edges that I'll be welding to so the welds will be good and strong. I want these D-rings to be welded to the trailer in the strongest way possible. And to do that, I need the most weld area. So I'm gonna weld these D-rings to a steel plate, and then I will weld that plate to the frame of the trailer. I think I want to go with 3/8 inch thick, so it'll be really, really strong. So I've got some material outside that I know I can use from the tables that I built for my brother. That's 3/8 of an inch. And I might have something back here. I'm going to scrounge through this really quick to see if there's something here that'll work. Oh, that's really big. Okay, that's 3/8, and I'm not sure it's wide enough, but we're going to give it a try. I'm gonna lay the D-rings on here and see if this will be big enough. Wish it was wider, but I could go this way. I could get a really big weld here, make it a little wider. I think this piece will work, and I can just chop off sections of it on my saw. The frame on the trailer isn't as wide as these brackets, so welding these brackets to the plate and then the plate to the trailer frame will be a lot stronger, and I think a little cleaner looking too. I'm going to cut out 3 more of those plates and clean up all the edges. It'll be hard to get back in there and paint these parts later, so I'm gonna hit them right now with some weld-through primer. All the parts for my D-rings are painted now, so I'm gonna start putting them together and tacking them up. The D-rings are all welded up now, and if you're wondering, is that enough weld? Is that strong enough? 1/4 inch of fillet weld, 1 inch long, will hold over 6,000 pounds. I've got about 5 inches of welding on each of these, so I'm in the 30,000 pound range. We'll never know if they can hold that much because nothing else in this whole system will generate 30,000 pounds of force. So these should be fine. The D-ring's ready to weld in, and I've got a couple of wet rags here that I'm stuffing up underneath so I don't burn up all the wiring for my lights. This one is all welded in now. I did 3 passes on each side attaching the D-ring to the frame, and then I did a few more passes to patch in all the sheet metal. Then I went underneath and I did 2 more passes attaching the D-ring to the frame. So that thing is on there. I feel really good about these. I do feel a little bit bad about burning through this really nice powder coat, but in the end, I think it'll totally be worth it. I'll go around and get all the other D-rings welded in now. These are all welded up and scrubbed up, and they're looking pretty good. Someday I'll paint the top of them. Right now I'm going to shoot some of this fluid film on the bottom of them. It's actually made out of lanolin, which is a wax that sheep make, and it keeps their wool from getting all wet. Sometimes they call it wool wax. And it also stops things from rusting. They use this for undercoating on cars, and it's the reason that you've never seen a rusty sheep. This solves the #1 problem I have with car hauler trailers everywhere, and that is an easy way to strap the vehicle down. So when we're all done here, we'll practice with Dig Dug and see how easy it is. The #2 problem that I often run into with car hauler trailers is they are hard to load, and I'm not talking about the ramps. Often the vehicle you're loading is dead. That's why you're trying to move it on a trailer. So you got to pull it on there somehow. I've also used pulleys and ropes and other cars to try and pull them on, but the easiest way is to have a dedicated winch mounted to the front of the trailer. And that's what I want to do right now. This is a brand new Badlands Apex 12,000 winch. This is what I'm going to mount onto the front of the trailer. These things are super strong. It's what I use on all my vehicles. It's what we used in Matt's off-road recovery, and it'll be strong enough to pull anything up onto this trailer, including a spud truck maybe someday. This comes with everything I'm going to need. It's got all of the wiring in here. It's got a remote control. It's got a winch fair lead. It's got a synthetic line, which is really nice to use. There it is. It's beautiful. I want to mount the winch right down in here. That means I'm going to have to chop into this bar. I'm going to have to remove the spare tire carrier. I don't even think I'm going to carry a spare tire anymore. I'm just going to carry glue tread. That stuff works awesome. Okay, time to start cutting. Well, that's not working. stuck. Sheesh. I saw us all is stuck. I'm gonna have to cut it loose with the angle grinder. This right here is why you never go into the forest with one chainsaw. It's free! Now to get the rest of this out. This is gonna be a great spot to mount a winch. I can build a winch tray that'll sit down in here, something on the front for the fair lead. I can build some side pieces that'll tie into these. That'll keep these really strong so I can connect to them if I need to. And we'll just leave that there. That'll reinforce the bottom a little bit. On the Harbor Freight website, there's a diagram of this winch that shows the mounting position for the bolts and the fair lead and the basic size of the winch. Show that right now, editor, if you can. Okay, that drawing is what I'm gonna use to build all these pieces. I'm gonna go draw them up on my computer and then we'll go cut them out on the CNC plasma table. I usually draw my parts in AutoCAD and I start by making really blocky shapes. I focus on getting dimensions right and the holes in the right locations. AutoCAD's not a parametric modeler, so sometimes I add in construction lines or draw other parts that the pieces need to interface with. Once I'm satisfied with everything, I copy those off to the side and I delete everything that's not part of what I'm trying to cut out. And I usually go in and add fillets or round off all of the corners. That helps the pieces fit together better, and it's easier on the CNC machine to cut out. It doesn't have to make sharp, abrupt turns and stop all the time. SheetCam is the software that I use to create G-code. That's what the CNC plasma cutter runs on. I pull in each file and I can position it where I want to cut it. I can set the lead in and lead out lengths and where I want to start the cuts. Then I hit convert and it saves it for me as G-code. I've got the CNC plasma cutter all set up and ready to go here. I drew up the side pieces. I want to build those first and then I'll go install them and the other pieces will fit in between them. I'm going to be cutting these out of 3/16 inch plate. Time to start cutting. I'm going to test this really quick before I cut out my second one. That's a perfect fit. I'm going to make another one and clean these up. These turned out fantastic. They've only got a tiny bit of slag on the back side, so they'll clean up really quick and easy, then I can weld them in. these side pieces all welded in now, and I can get the measurement between them that I need to build the bottom plate and the front piece. Looks like 24 3/4. I took all of those files and I've loaded them onto this computer, and now I'm ready to cut again. These parts are going to take the exact same process. I'll clean them up and then we'll go weld them in. I've got my base piece tacked in place here and everything's fitting really good. So I'm just going to start going around and bombing in all the welds. The welding is all finished up now, and I have no doubt that this tray will easily hold a 12,000 pound winch in place. Now it's time to bolt on the fair lead and mount up the winch. Oh, that's gonna work. I'm gonna bolt the winch down. The winch is looking good in there, and it's going to be a really nice upgrade for this trailer. I need some way to power that winch. I could use big battery cables that run from the front of my truck all the way to the back with an Anderson connector, and that would work, but it would only work for that truck. So my idea is to place a battery up here somewhere on the tongue. That idea is going to make this next upgrade even more important. I want to hold more than just a battery up here. It would also be nice to have a place to put straps, tools, maybe a hitch. So having some kind of storage system on the front of the trailer is the next upgrade. Harbor Freight has a solution for this upgrade too, and it's this trailer tongue box. Check it out. It's the perfect size to hold all the stuff I need, so it's always right here when I need it. Trailer tongues aren't just made some arbitrary wedge shape, they're almost always 50 degrees. See? 50 degrees. So this box should fit perfect right down into this space. I like that it's not too wide, that way it doesn't hurt my turning radius with the trailer. Check out what I've got inside right now. It's a battery box. So I've got a box inside my box so all the metal junk I have in here bouncing around won't short out my battery terminals and cause a fire. I'm gonna figure out a good way to bolt this box down to the tongue, and then I'll start routing all the wires. I don't want to drill holes in the tongue, the main C channels that make up the tongue, because the tongue needs to be really strong. So I've got a piece of angle iron I'll weld in on the back side, and in the front, I think it'll be safe to drill into this section right here. I've got my holes all drilled now, and the winch wires are installed. It's time to put this whole thing back together. The tiny little self-tapping screws that came with this kit were just not working. I found some bigger ones on my shelf and they worked a lot better. I used a short piece of hose with a slit in it to keep the ground wire from chafing. Eventually I'll get grommets that are the right size and I'll put those in the holes. I'm putting a full throttle battery in here because they're awesome. They come in some of the bigger sizes, they've got more lead in them, they've got a super tough construction, and more cold cranking amps. There's some more tidying up to do in here, but basically I hooked up the power and ground, so I think the winch is ready to go. Let's see if this thing's gonna work. Okay, this thing is going to be awesome. I'm excited about this. It's really coming together. Let me show you what I'm going to put into the box. One is the winch remote controller. And I've got all of these straps. These are the snap hook style that I like. I've got 2 sets for the front. And I've got another set for the back. It's a different length and I bought a different color so I could tell them apart. I got this from Harbor Freight. I hate dead batteries, and when they sit for a long time, like trailers sometimes do, the batteries are always dead. So I'm gonna keep this in the box, and when I'm parking it, I can just set it on top. I'll leave it plugged into the battery, and hopefully when I come back, my battery's good. I'll have to do a little testing to see if this is enough of a solar panel. It's not huge, but I think it'll do the job. I'm also going to wire the trailer up so when it's connected to the truck, that will charge the battery as well. I think everything here is ready to go, so it's time to get all of this out on the road. This upgrade is Maverick approved. I want to take just a second and talk to you about sponsors for the videos. No, I don't have a sponsor for today's video, but in the future, I do want to have one sponsor for each video. I appreciate your support of my channel by watching, by buying merch, and by superfan donations. I am just a small to medium-sized YouTube channel, so to continue doing what I'm doing, I also need the support from sponsors. The sponsors' support helps pay for things like cameras, paying for editors, and materials to do the fabrication work. I will do my best to pick sponsors that I am personally interested in and that I think that you'll be interested as well, and I'll try to make the content entertaining and brief. I hope you'll appreciate the sponsors for what they do so that we can make more and more awesome content for you. So thank you again. Now I'll get back to work. Dig Dug is going to spend a lot of time getting towed on that trailer, so it makes sense to make this truck as easy as possible to strap down and remove from the trailer. I've got these little weld-on brackets that I got from Spencer over at CarBuffNetwork. They're right here. These will weld on to the axles on the trailer, and I'll be able to attach the ratchet straps directly to them. These brackets work best with this twisted flat hook type of strap. They just clip on nice and easy, and if things get loose, they don't bounce off because they've got this little keeper, this retainer. They also work with this style of S-hook. This is kind of a light duty version, but they should work with big versions. They don't really work with this style of hook. They'll slide in there, but it's at a funky angle and I wouldn't trust it. They make different styles of these brackets. This one's curved so I can weld it onto an axle tube, and this one's flat. I'll use these on the front where I have some flat plates to weld to. The edge of this bracket has already been ground down, probably to get better penetration when it's getting welded onto the axle. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other three so they will all be super strong after they're welded on. These are ready to go. I'm going to weld them onto the truck. On the front axle, I'm going to weld these half onto the tube and half onto the axle brackets from Off-Road Designs. That'll get them so they're low enough to clip under the tie rod and high enough to be up and out of the way. I'm going to do a tiny bit of prep work on the axle so the bracket will lay down nice and flat. These are ready to weld on, and they're going to go on hot and heavy. I'm using the 1/4 inch settings for my machine, and I'm going to do multiple passes. These are burned in here really good. I did 3 passes on each side. I'm just going to clean them up a little tiny bit, and then we'll move on to the back. On the back end, I've got more choice about where I want to place these brackets. I think I want to go kind of in between on the axle tube somewhere. And again, I'm going to keep them kind of high so they don't easily get hit by rocks. These brackets are pretty thick, and if they do get hit by rocks, they ought to hold up pretty well. brackets are all welded in, and look how easy it's going to be now to attach the straps. I'm all loaded up and headed to Sand Hollow right now. Everything is riding great, and I've got to say loading was easier than ever. Let me pull in here and I'll show you. All right, let me show you how quick and easy this is to tie down. It's actually a pleasure now. This is so much better. I'm thrilled. Okay, the strap length on the back I think is just about perfect. I got a couple extra feet so I could do something different if I needed to, and it's really easy to tie off the short end, and you're not searching for that end and trying to keep it flat the whole time. So I like these straps. I think these are 12 footers. On this end, I think they're 14, and they're a little bit long, so I might cut them down so I don't have too much extra. Yeah, it's not that much. These trailer upgrades have been super fun, and they should pay dividends for a long, long time. I know there's two schools of thought when tying down a vehicle to a trailer. One is to tie down to the axles because they're just strong and a good point to connect to. But some people say that there could be a weird harmonic between the bouncing suspension of the vehicle and the suspension of the trailer. I've never experienced that. So tying down to the axles is the way that I almost always do it. The other school of thought is tie down to the bumpers or the body somehow and suck the suspension down. That way the suspension is not bouncing and you only have the trailer suspension to deal with. I get nervous with that method because if you hit a big bump and you bounce your suspension extra low, something could come unhooked. Let me know in the comments how you like to tie things down and any tips or tricks that you've learned over the years. Thanks for watching.